Hi, I'm Amber Heard, and tonight's Australian story is about Jennifer Robinson. Jennifer is and has been my lawyer, my advocate, and an invaluable resource and support system for me for years. But she's also a very dear friend. Jen's rise from a shy, small-town country girl to the international human rights lawyer that she is today is truly remarkable. Now Jen wants to make sure that other kids that were like her have a chance to follow their dreams.
To be involved in two of the world's most high-profile cases within a 3-month period, it was full on.
High-profile cases do bring their own pressure because the world is watching, not necessarily understanding.
If someone had said to me 10 years ago when this case started that I would be giving evidence in the Old Bailey about an offer from President Donald Trump, I just wouldn't have believed them.
Anyone who thinks she's got where she is through luck doesn't understand the situation. She works, I would say, 16 hours a day, every day, and sometimes more. She is prepared to do whatever it takes to make things happen.
That was the political deal that was offered.
People think it's easy to flounce around in wigs and gowns and talk from the top of your head. But you never do that. You have to prepare.
Until we are all free, none of us are.
She works incredibly hard for her clients and she's so courageous and so fiercely loyal towards them. But she also understands that you have to occasionally swing off a chandelier with a cocktail between your teeth.
I was once described in the media in Australia as the sassy Assange lawyer. And I thought, I say the same things as Jeff. Why am I sassy, but it's fine for Jeff to say it?
It's so sexist.
I've been in a room where people presume I'm the secretary rather than the lawyer. It really used to upset me, but now I quite enjoy it.
She doesn't pick easy cases. That's not her. If she's passionate about a cause, she will go after it with everything she's got.
Wow, she is a brave woman I haven't seen in the entire planet.
Growing up, I never imagined that I would have the career that I have. I hoped that I might go on to do good things, and I certainly intended to, but I could never have predicted where I've ended up. I don't know whether it's because I'm a woman in the law or because I'm a public school kid who's taken an unlikely path, but I've always felt a sense of imposter syndrome, that I need to prove myself and continually prove that I deserve to be here.
So you can see straight down there in the middle is Berry. And I spent the first 12 years of my life living in that little town. My whole family's still there. And then over to the right, just behind that mountain, is Bomaderry, where I went to high school. Basically, this was my whole life until I was 18. Berry is definitely the place that makes me feel confident to go out into the world. So if all else fails, I can always come home. And that's a pretty great safety net.
My mum and dad got married very young, and I was their first child. My dad's a racehorse trainer like his dad was before him, and he works incredibly hard, so I think that's probably where I get my work ethic. He's up at 4:30, works all day, every day. The worst thing you could possibly be called in my family is lazy.
Well, I was 15 when I started. I've been riding gallopers since I was 18, and I still ride today. I'm 66. It is a full-on career. Unfortunately, it's 7 days a week, 24/7.
My dad worked his whole life for my grandfather and now runs the family business, but he worked for basically minimum wage. My mum earned more money than he did as a teacher. So money was always stressful and difficult.
Jen was a very shy little girl. She was very quiet and very a private girl. She kept her thoughts to herself a lot of the time. She was very curious and she was incredibly able to learn.
Just as I was going to high school, my parents separated, which was a very difficult time for our family.
There was a lot going on that she couldn't control, but what she could control was herself. And she was really, I think, became quite clear on, well, this is who I want to be and how I want to be in the world. And I think it really drove her to be independent.
I threw myself into my studies, and that was the one thing that I could control. But also, I learnt about resilience, and I discovered that I could get through difficult times. When I started at Bomaderry High, I wasn't in the top class, which my mum thought was a complete travesty and disgrace.
So this was one of my classrooms in my first year at Bomaderry High. And this was the classroom where the teacher told me that I should maybe lower my expectations about becoming a doctor.
The number of students from Bomaderry High that would end up going off to university, let alone to do medicine, was probably pretty small. So maybe she was right, but I was determined to prove her wrong. After high school, I went to study law at the ANU in Canberra, but I did a double degree in Asian studies. So I mainly went because I wanted to go and spend a year living in Indonesia, which was part of that degree. To be honest, I wasn't that interested in my law degree to start with. I did a semester in Yogyakarta and then went to West Papua to do a research project and volunteer with a human rights NGO. And those next few months changed my life forever. There's been an independence movement in West Papua since it was occupied by Indonesia in the 1960s, and it's been met with violent opposition by the Indonesian military since. Before I went to West Papua, I had already been told about Benny Wenda, that he'd been arrested. It turns out the NGO that I was working with was actually already representing him, so I worked on his case. Benny was an important leader of the movement for self-determination in West Papua because of the experiences of his childhood.
I was grew up in the highlands of West Papua with my family and my mom, my dad.
His family were affected by a military attack when he was a young child, and they were forced to flee into the forest. He watched his own aunts being raped in front of him.
That is my earliest memory and never forget it. I lost those auntie, I never seen them again. 2002, I was arrested by Indonesian military.
He was attacked several times inside the prison, and we were very concerned that they were going to kill him.
This is amazing. This is Benny's charge sheet, original charge sheet in Indonesian. So it explains when he was arrested, filled full of false allegations. So he was accused of inciting an attack on the police station and inciting the local population to raise the flag and then defend the flag.
I worked on Benny's trial as part of his defence team, and I was shocked by the injustice I saw in his trial. But I was also intrigued by him. He had this remarkable presence.
My boys, tell me that is a white woman are now working with your case. Amazing that, I know that some people out there watching and we are not alone, I'm not alone.
Benny's wife, Maria, and their baby daughter, Koteka, were effectively in hiding because of the threat to their lives. To meet them, I had to go to a safe house, and they made me wear all dark clothes, cover as much of my white skin as I could.
When Jane came in the middle of night, she came and visit us. I felt like lift my spirit up. Wow, this is it's like bring hope.
I gave them enough money to get a boat over to Papua New Guinea and survive in the refugee camps over there for a while, but I didn't know if I'd ever see them again.
I didn't know what Jen was getting up to in West Papua at all. I'm pleased I didn't, because I certainly would have been worried about her, that's for sure. But she's very brave and, you know, when she believes in something, she's very steadfast about it.
My time in West Papua was life-changing. I was traumatised by what I'd seen. I was only 21 and suddenly I was dealing with being followed around by intelligence services, life and death situations, investigating rape and torture and human rights abuse. And to me, it just seemed impossible to walk away from that.
It really gave her the human face of human rights and what happens when your human rights aren't respected or even exist. And she came back fired.
Not long after I returned to Australia, I heard that Benny had escaped from prison and was able to get to the UK where he claimed asylum. I was with Benny at Heathrow Airport when Maria and Kateka came to the country, and it was beautiful. I mean, 6 months before that, I didn't know if I'd see any of them ever again or if they'd ever see each other ever again.
We arrived in the UK, she already there. She was in the airport, and I was like surprised that, wow, she's still here.
I was supposed to go back to finish my law degree, but I couldn't do it. Suddenly people were talking about what to wear to the pub on Friday night, and I just thought, who cares? There's bigger things going on in the world. It's all relative. So I took a year off to process what I'd been through, and when I came back to my law degree, I was motivated and threw myself into it because I knew what I wanted to do with it. And that was to help the people of West Papua and to become a human rights lawyer. I really wanted to go back to the UK to be near Benny and Maria, who had settled in Oxford. I also knew I wanted to do postgraduate studies, but I couldn't afford to do that without a scholarship. So someone suggested that I apply for the Rhodes Scholarship, and I got it.
She was very conscious when she went to Oxford that she did not fit the profile of the Rhodes Scholar because she was A, female, public school, divorced parents, low income.
Many a grand summer ball, as you know yourself, being here for 3 of them.
When I looked around at Oxford, even of the scholarship students, the great proportion of my year, at least, had been to private schools.
Can you remember you were coming up dinner in here?
I do. I remember feeling so overwhelmed, I guess. It was a pretty big culture shock for a kid from the country to be sitting in a huge fancy dining hall next to kids from Eton. One of my friends joked with me much later that when he met me, he thought, who's this bimbo? But he admitted that I proved him wrong. I will never forget my first dinner at Oxford. We were sitting in a grand dining hall surrounded by portraits of old white men, and we were welcomed with a speech talking about all the important famous Balliol men, prime ministers, Nobel Prize winners. And then he said, and we let women in the 70s. So look around, fellas, you could be sitting next to your future wife. And I thought, wow, what are we, marriage fodder?
Thank heavens for Velcro.
By my second year at Oxford, I started doing research work with Geoffrey Robertson QC, who I had long admired.
I liked her work. She's very industrious. She's very amicable and outgoing and inventive, and she also had a nice sense of mischief, which I always think is essential. So I hired her.
Since being in West Papua, I wanted to be a human rights lawyer, but I didn't know how to get there. There's no straightforward path. And to me, working with Geoffrey Robertson was a wonderful entrance into that work.
Julian Assange, Australian-born editor-in-chief of the internet whistleblower site WikiLeaks.
Every organisation rests upon a mountain of secrets.
In 2010, I remember Jeff giving me a call saying, what do you know about WikiLeaks? And I said, well, they've been publishing some really interesting information and the editor's Australian. And he said, we should get in contact with him because he is going to need our help.
The thing about Julian is that he's brilliant, but he has no social skills, which is why he gets into so much trouble all the time. And so there was only one lawyer, I thought, who would understand him, and that was Jen Robinson. And they immediately clicked, and she became his absolute champion.
Jennifer has been a central figure in Julian's legal fight on many fronts, and I mean, there have been so many legal wrangles. There's been so many lawyers, you know, in so many countries, and but Jennifer has been at the center of sort of the organizing the whole defense, basically.
In the first 2 years that I was representing Julian, I had to deal with an arrest warrant, major international publications, an Interpol arrest notice, the banking blockade, the Swedish extradition case, his asylum claim with Ecuador. It was a very intense time. I received death threats. I was warned not to walk home from the office on my own. I was warned about my phone being tapped. I was stopped trying to board a flight in London at Heathrow. And that was shocking to me.
Miss Robinson says she was told she might be on a travel watch list and may need special clearance to board a plane.
I suspect if there is indeed a list and my name's on it, perhaps it has something to do with my work for WikiLeaks.
Our highest calling is to act for our client, no matter how demonized they happen to be. And of course, acting for Assange means a certain degree of hostility.
And continue to protest my innocence.
Much has been said in the media about Julian as a person by many people who have never met him or dealt with him. But this case is bigger than that. It is about the principle. It is about the principle of protecting press freedom and freedom of speech. I had always intended to go to the bar, whether in Australia or in the UK, and in 2016 I joined Doughty Street, which is Jeffrey's chambers.
Jeff came home to say he'd hired 2 new juniors. So they both walked in, and it's Amal Clooney and Jen Robinson. I mean, they're both supermodels. And I was like, are you kidding me? Was there not one plain, pasty-faced, pimply, lank-haired woman in the cull? Really?
Doughty Street Chambers is the most remarkable place with a rich history of defending human rights and civil liberties.
I think what drives a human rights lawyer is a profound sense of compassion and anger all at once, getting to the point where instead of waiting for someone else to do something because they should, they might, they could, actually you just have to.
It's a different way of thinking about the law than what I learnt at university.
Actor Johnny Depp has lost his defamation case against a British newspaper that claimed he had assaulted his former wife, Amber Heard.
Last year, while Julian's case was going on, I was also advising Amber Heard in Johnny Depp's defamation case against the Sun newspapers. That case raised significant concerns from domestic violence groups because of the ways in which the law can be used to silence those who want to speak out about their allegations of domestic violence.
It has been incredibly painful to relive the breakup of my relationship.
I have worked on some very high-profile, controversial cases. I have never seen a client face the level of vitriol and abuse that I saw directed at Amber. And it's a sad reflection on where we are as a society that a woman who has got a restraining order in respect of domestic violence allegations to face that kind of abuse. I'm very limited in what I can say about that case because it's still on appeal and he is suing her personally for defamation in the United States.
The food
looks good. Definitely having some sambal. We can't have Mum go last.
Well, she's achieved a degree of publicity because of her help to Amber Heard and Julian Assange and others. But I think most of her work is unknown. And her work for West New Guinea, for example, has been extraordinary.
It's great seeing you guys so committed to your studies and doing so well. Being on the ground in West Papua and seeing what I saw has left me with a lifelong commitment to their cause and the movement for self-determination. Your dad laughs at my Indonesian. Need to practice a bit more.
It's so nice that we call you Kaka Jane, and Kaka Jane means big sister. So
it's true.
Yeah. Whenever she comes, she doesn't just come for like lawyer stuff, but she comes and she takes time and sits down with each of us, asks, what's going on in your life? How can I help? And then she'll give us amazing advice.
But you're not going to be a lawyer, right? You saw how hard I have to work. Yes, I've given a lot to the cause, but I have received so much from them in terms of love and support and encouragement and opportunities to be involved in something so much bigger. Remember this trip when we got in so much trouble? I love this picture. As an Australian, I thought, well, I'll be all right, but I was more worried about you.
Yeah.
But remember, everybody got arrested?
It was terrible, you know. My dream always, because I already said to, one day you will become a big lawyer. At that point, you will help me. But she never believed.
In 2018, I appeared in the International Court of Justice to argue for the legal principles that would protect West Papua. All states have the obligation to refrain from any action that deprives the people of their right to self-determination. I guess the message that I try to give to law students when I speak at universities is that it is possible to make a difference with the law. And the law is, in fact, a powerful tool for social change.
Without her, I cannot move, you know. She's like a backbone of the struggle itself.
She knew it was going to be a very long fight. In fact, she knows that the fight will probably go on as long as she is alive and even longer. But she just knows also that unless you take on the fight, nothing's going to change.
After 8 years of cat and mouse, Julian Assange is on the precipice of extradition to the United States.
I've been Julian's lawyer for 10 years now, and it has been incredibly challenging. He's under a huge amount of pressure with wide-ranging, significant cases in numerous jurisdictions to deal with, but also has really given me remarkable experience as a lawyer, dealing with something so international, so controversial, so political.
I knew she would be a valuable asset to the case, but I also knew there would be a personal toll.
Can we go to the Old Bailey, please? Thank you.
She fires up when she needs to fire up, but then she's exhausted afterwards, so, you know, you worry about that.
Now, I'm not going to wear my mask through the crowd.
No.
America's bid to extradite Julian Assange from Britain is blocked, but the Australian WikiLeaks founder remains behind bars.
Ultimately, we've won the extradition case on the grounds that he is a suicide risk. But the judgment is not a win for free speech. The United States have indicated that they will appeal against the decision, and it's likely that will be heard later this year. Being back in Australia has given me the opportunity to sit down face-to-face with politicians to discuss Julian's case.
Nice to see you again, you too.
Enough is enough. This has gone on for more than a decade. We won the case. It's time for him to be returned home.
It's a fight, isn't it? And Assange at the moment faces 175 years in prison. And so I'm glad that Jen is still there helping him.
She's always based her career on what she feels is important. She loves the fact that she didn't do it the traditional way. She came up through the public education system and now she wants to help more Jennifers.
It's really exciting. This is something that I've been thinking about for at least a decade. I recently started a program called the Acacia Awards with the Public Education Foundation, together with a bunch of former public school kids who have been successful in a variety of fields. So people like Adam Hills, Kathy Lett, Miff Warhurst, Tom Tilley. It provides a scholarship, funding and the mentoring that I wish that I had had. When I was at school, I didn't really know a lawyer and certainly didn't see any examples of lawyers coming either from my school or even really in my local community.
A lot of public school kids go on and do great things, but there's never been a loop back into the system, or not a consistent loop back where they go back and say, I did this, you can too. And I think if you want kids to harness their vision to a star, you've got to show them a couple of stars.
This is where I went to high school. It's really important to me to be able to come back to speak to the students because I feel like I got a great education here, and I want to encourage kids to know that they can do whatever they want from a public education. Hi everyone, my name's Jen. I am a former Bomaderry High School student and was here 20-something years ago. Going back to my school was just so rewarding, and it actually affected me emotionally.
What did you find most difficult about doing a law degree coming from a regional area?
There is socioeconomic difference down here, but it was even more stark to me when I went to university. I had to work 3 jobs to put myself through my law degree. You know, a lot of my friends who went to private schools had sort of private tutors and extra assistants and all of things that I had to do on my own. And so I think that actually puts you in really good stead when you get to university because it's such independent learning. I came away with the feeling, and in fact the students told me, that seeing someone who had come from where they came from and who had done this made them feel like it was more possible for them. And that really moved me.
Do you think you are the same person as you were in high school?
I think I'm the same person. Obviously, life experience changes you in some ways, but I love coming back, and I still come back down the coast here a lot. Hi. Hello. Nice day. Look how big she is.
The best thing about Jen, she's so natural. She's never changed. When she started to go really well overseas, she'd just come home and it's our Jen again.
Hi. How are you? Love you too. Oh, so good to see you. Hey, Jill.
So much has happened in all our lives.
Caught your sunnies.
But she still comes home, we still catch up, and yeah, she's just a really loyal person and she will stick by you 100%. And that's what she's done with some of her cases, is she's stuck by those people and effectively become part of their family as well.
Yeah, it's fun. What are you reading?
Get the micros and then
Harry Potter. This is like me when I was that age. I was like you too, but Zane, I loved the books when I was little. I used to always be reading in the corner.
Being away from home's definitely been challenging for Jen. Not only missing the family and I guess missing that strong sense of connection to your roots, being at the beach, being active, being on the horses, that's all really important to Jen.
I feel most at home here in Australia. This is my home. But I also love my work in London. My hope has always been that I'd be able to split my time between Australia and the UK. And I'm definitely working towards that.
Once she's decided she's going to do something, she doesn't give up. It doesn't always give her the results she wants. I mean, Julian's still in jail and West Papua is still struggling, but she's making a difference.
There are times when working on these cases which involve massive power imbalances when I get down about it. But when you look at the course of history and the changes that have been possible, that's what gives me hope. I once met Desmond Tutu and I asked him, what got you through the darkest times of apartheid? And he took my hand and he said to me, Jen, history is long, but know that justice will prevail. And I try to remember that when I'm having a bad day.
I do think that my career is really only just starting. As a barrister, life is long, career is long. In the law, they say you get better with age. So I feel like, yeah, I'm only just starting.